Well, hello, my friends. Some very interesting things are happening around the world. First of all, what is happening with President Donald Trump in terms of his mentality and what he's trying to project in terms of his image? And we have a very interesting post here from The Guardian, which says that Trump deletes posts with AI image of himself as Christ-like figure after outcry. I mean, you got to see this image. It's got him there. He's sort of this Christ-like figure. He's got light radiating from his hand, and he's putting his other hand on this man's head, and he's healing this man. And there's people all around him, and they're kind of looking up to him, and he's got light shining forth from him, and it's sort of a very grand picture, and it shows him very much so as this Christ-like figure. And so that's what Trump's trying to do. He's trying to project himself as this messianic figure. And he did respond to the criticism of it. You know, he's just sort of saying that it was a charitable thing he was trying to do for an organization that had to do with health and healing people and healing the sick and stuff like that through health. And so, but he did take the post down after the outcry, and which in a sense does show some sense of guilt or some sense of maybe making a wrong step. Because if you know Trump, he loves to double down. You know, he's not going to post things and then delete them afterwards. He normally doubles down. You know, but this time he did delete the post because of the outcry, and he sort of felt pressured to do so. But you cannot underestimate the imagery, the symbolism that he was trying to invoke there. It's obviously very much a messianic figure symbol that he tried to invoke. And that's not all, but he's getting into tussles with the Pope too, you know, which we'll get into as well. And this comes in the backdrop of his war with Iran as well. So I guess the question is, how do we draw the Bible into this situation, especially the prophetic? So, Revelation 13 says, Revelation 13, verse 11, "And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had two horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon." So, what's going on here? Two horns like a lamb. That's Christian, because the lamb represents Jesus Christ. But speaking as a dragon, that's Satan, that's the devil. So within a Christian framework, you have satanic principles being manifest. Okay? So is it a wonder then that America, being the leading Christian nation in the world, a professedly Christian nation, professedly godly nation, has a president who is making a picture of himself as this messianic figure, right? Isn't that a lamb speaking as a dragon, in a sense that it's this Christian imagery being used, but really it's Antichrist imagery, because man cannot claim to be a messianic figure without some level of Antichrist, anti-Messiah mentality being seeped into it, because obviously it's usurping the position of Jesus, you see. And so that's one thing that Trump is doing with this post, which is a very interesting post, by the way. It shows his mentality. It shows what he's trying to do. And this not all, but you also had the triumphal arch that he wanted to build as well. You have the golden dome that he wants to build. You have the golden age that he was talking about, a new golden age in America. So it really does seem like he is thinking of a legacy, what his legacy will be at the end of all of this, you know, and how to make a name for himself. And claiming to be a healer or some sort of a messianic figure, because you're, I don't know, dealing with healthcare or something like that. Yeah, that's trying to, make yourself up there, right? So that's Trump. Two horns like a lamb, spake as a dragon. Professedly Christian, using Christian motifs, Christian language, but man, the wrath of the dragon. We remember his post where he talked about how he would, quote, destroy Iranian civilization. And there's another quote where he talks about, he says, praise Allah and open the quote unquote effing straight, or, you crazy, explicative. I don't want to say the words, but this was just after he was prayed for and anointed by Paula White and Franklin Graham as being God's chosen one, to be used as God's instrument to make drastic changes in the world. And so, try and mesh those two things together, right? By the fruits you will know. You will know of a person, and so his fruits are very suspicious at the moment because he is making posts of himself being a messianic figure. It gets interesting, prophetically speaking. So him and the Pope aren't doing too very well with each other right now. So Pope Leo said that he has no fear of the Trump administration, and that he gave a very good answer, very, very in-depth answer, I think. Very, very well thought through answer to the reporter. He said, I don't have any fear of the Trump administration, and that basically he's there to preach the gospel, and that blessed are the peacemakers, is what Pope Leo said. Blessed are the peacemakers. So, and then this comes in the backdrop of him saying that Jesus Christ does not sanction wars of aggression and religious wars and this sort of a thing too. Now, we know, prophetically speaking, that America and this other power will unite in the world. I can read the quote now. This is a prophetic quote here by a prophet, and it says, the Protestants of the United States will be foremost in stretching their hands across the gulf to grasp the hand of spiritualism. They will reach over the abyss to clasp hands with the Roman power. And under the influence of this threefold union, this country will follow in the steps of Rome in trampling on the rights of conscience. So, the Pope's this figure, the Catholic Church is this organization that's got a lot of influence in the world, but it's not the front man. The front man leading the charge right now is the United States of America, and it's the Protestants of America that have, compromised their principles and are trying to incorporate themselves with Rome. And it's the Protestants of America that reach over the abyss to clasp hands with the papal power. And so it's America's the front man in all this. And it's the miracles, it's the false miracles that America will do that will lead the world to then embrace the Roman power again. And to follow this system in the world today. And so how do you reconcile that reality with what we're seeing now, where there's antagonism between Donald Trump and Pope Leo? Well, I think it's absolutely clear that, first we'll read Revelation 13. It says that, he that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints. That's speaking of the first period that we see in history, which was the Dark Ages, which came to an end in 1798. That's when the Pope was, when the papacy was destroyed with the sword. That was when the French Revolution occurred, and the secular powers of France basically wiped out much of Catholicism that existed. You had the guillotine, you had mass violence taking place, you had the papal power being destroyed with the sword. And then it says, he that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. So the Pope was actually led captive by Napoleon's armies and imprisoned and sent into exile, where he died. So you had two things happening in 1798. You had the sword, the guillotine, mass executions, mass bloodshed taking place against the Catholic Church. And then you had the captivity of the Pope. He's led into exile. He's led over the Alps. He dies in exile. He's imprisoned. Two things happen, fulfilling Revelation 13, verse 10. And then in verse 11, it talks about another beast coming up on the world scene, which is the United States of America, this professedly Christian nation that speaks as a dragon. And so those are the two beasts right now. So the relationship is America exists on the world scene, whereas the beast before it, the old world, the colonial world, the papal world, is dead. So it's not so and the resurrection of this beast power, this papal system over the world, occurs at the instigation of the United States of America. So if we keep reading, it says here, speaking of America, and he exercises all the power of the first beast before him, and causes the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast whose deadly wound was healed. Verse 13, and he does great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men, and deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast, which had the wound by the sword, and did live. Miracles take place. We can read some other quotes here. It's speaking of the devil, Satan, Lucifer. It says here, he will cause fire to come down from heaven in the sight of men to prove that he is God. Medical Ministry, 8788, 1903. Another quote goes, it is the lying wonders of the devil that will take the world captive, and he will cause fire to come down from heaven in the sight of men. Selected Messages, Book 2, 51, 18, 90. Another quote goes, Satan will come in to deceive, if possible, the very elect. Maranatha 2:08. So this deception that will come in on the world is no easygoing false prophet. This is Satan himself that will come down on the world scene to deceive, if possible, the very elect. And so what we see now is this, basically. The papacy is in a dead state right now, currently. 1798, it receives its deadly wound. America is reigning right now. And there's a time coming when the false miracles start taking place at the instigation of Satan, that this power will shift back to the papacy again. So right now there's a division, and that's how I explain the dynamics of what's happening right now, why Trump and Pope Leo can't get on. Because America's on the world scene right now, and America's in charge right now. And the papacy is in a dead condition at the moment in terms of its political power. It's got spiritual power, but its political power is largely dead because it does not have a major nation that is exercising power on its behalf directly. And so this was not the case during the Dark Ages, where the nations of Europe openly and directly swore allegiance to the Pope and fulfilled his wishes. But the prophecy does say that America will eventually, things will take place, circumstances will change, where America gifts its power to the papacy at the instigation of Satan. So finally, to close, I leave you with this point that the Pope is just positioning himself. Yeah. He's very cleverly positioning himself to be the peacemaker in all of this stuff that's happening, because America's dominating the world scene right now, and he's just positioning himself to be the man that the world looks unto as an alternative to the hard virtues of war and nationalism. That's it, really, And he's very cleverly positioning himself by saying, I'm not scared of the Trump administration. I have no fear, but nevertheless, I'm just here to preach the gospel, and blessed are the peacemakers, right? Positioning, because he's in a state where the papacy's in a state where it doesn't have overt political power like it did during the Dark Ages, but it just has spiritual power. So he's just playing his cards right here, and trying to position himself to be an influence in the peacemaking processes of the world right now. And so there's a time coming when there'll be a shift where America will give its allegiance, its support, its laws. The Christians of America, the Protestants of America will fully support Mother Rome. Reach across the Gulf, clasp hands with the papal power. But for now, there's a little bit of antagonism. It's about positioning, and America currently dominates the world scene. The United States of America is currently dominating the world scene. It's this beast power that's on the scene. And so watch the space. Keep a close eye on the events that take place, because Christian nationalism is on the rise. And Christian nationalism will turn into national apostasy, will turn into a Christian nationalist state, which is the amalgamation of the political and the religious together, which will be an image of what was going on during the Dark Ages, during the Roman power's reign on the world, when church and state were not separated. So watch the space. This is just jostling right now. Pope Leo is very clever. He's very adept in knowing what he has to do, and he played his cards absolutely right. If he goes in overtly supporting Trump, then he isolates a lot of people around the world that would otherwise look to him as a kind of peacemaker that could be the mediator to end a lot of conflicts around the world, to be the man to speak up for peace, to be the man to speak up for quote-unquote human rights and stuff like that. And if he can position himself as that man, he will absolutely do that. But I tell you now, the Catholic Church is in no position from a moral perspective, if you really think about it, to situate itself as the peacemaker of the world, The problems with the Catholic Church are systemic. It's not a matter of just proclaiming yourself to be a peacemaker and proclaiming all these good things, because the Pope is doing that. He's saying the right things, but systemically, the Catholic Church is incredibly dangerous.